Ring, 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 hello, simps and virgins.
God, stop.
And welcome back to Krown's magical, also very serious magic internet money cave.
Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto Respectful Cave as we get ready for a nice little Saturday morning over here. Wanted to follow up on some short-term time frame ideas that we've been looking at for the past few days here, and then also perhaps interweave that into the higher-term time frames. Although I really want to save the long-term time frame analysis, of which there are actually some pretty interesting things going on there for tomorrow, and some new things as well, I should say. Anyways, without further ado, let's just jump right on into it and start it off here with a lower-term time frame. So yesterday we were looking at pressure down, but Bitcoin likely to maintain the ranges, and that's pretty much what we got. We got a bit of sideways, we got a bit of downside, but no major massive break, obviously, as we were looking for only to confirm a major breakdown below 16,650 on a closing basis. Now, Bitcoin tested back down around there, like pretty close to it actually, but as you can see, nice little wick down, bounces off it, and all is good in the hood as Bitcoin essentially maintains the overall range. So, to reference yesterday's title, which was something about like avoiding bear traps, that's essentially what we were talking about right there. Now the question becomes what to look for next. So within the context of this, we have the exact same ranges essentially. On the hourly, it is a little bit smaller, obviously, compared to the 4 hour, which is what we were using yesterday. But ultimately, I'd be using the same sort of 50% right here, as you can see, which gives us a range low at about 16,800 on a closing basis versus a range high at about 17,300, again, on a closing basis. That is to say, a closure above or below the ranges, and we very likely see the next sort of trending-ish move. Now, in this case, if we see that happen to the upside, anywhere above, or again, on a closing basis, preferably with a 4 hour time frame, above 17.3 or so, that's at the point where I'd really be looking for Bitcoin to make a quick move towards 17.5, but ultimately, I don't think that Bitcoin would really be stopping until about 18,000 bucks. That's sort of the next major area. Now, to the downside, this is where things become a lot more interesting or tricky or maybe terrible, depending upon your disposition. If we do see a break below the bottom side of the range, and in this case, I'd probably go with the 4 hour, just to be a little bit more on the safe side, because, you know, an hourly is a rather low term time frame for the weekends. That'd be giving us a range low at about 16,600. So again, I'm kind of cutting it to the middle from what we were looking at yesterday. Let's just call it 16.7 or so. On a closing basis below there, that's gonna be the lights out area, bro. I've been seeing this around like Twitter and in crypto YouTube and stuff with all of the line draws. Hey, no disrespect if you're a line drawer, by the way. I draw lines too. It's good. It's good for your art sense as well. But I always see this like, lose this level and it's lights out, bro. Well, that's the fucking lights out line. That we have some lights out action going on over here, bro. If you lose this line, it's lights out. It's all over. It's all over. It's never coming back. Fair enough. You know, if Bitcoin does close below that region, again, let's just call it 16.7. Cut them to the middle right there. That's to the point where I'd be looking at this as a nice little medium-term bull trap, and Bitcoin very likely comes back down to the prior range lows. So somewhere between like 15.5 to 16,000 even. You know, it does seem like these ranges are getting smaller and smaller over time, and that's just what we've been relegated to in one of the lowest volatility periods in Bitcoin's history here. Anyways, okay, cool. So we've gone through that. Let's now go through the short-term time frame stochastic momentum just to see where things are kind of pivoted for right now to maybe get a bias in the short term. And starting off with the daily, we can see that the daily will actually turn down freshly from, you know, kind of in a more extreme posturing here. Only if Bitcoin, however, closed below 16,350. That would be a top of consideration. Again, if the 4 hour does close below 16.7, you're very likely to see that level hit. And if Bitcoin then closes the daily below there, well, that's at the point where I'd be looking for moves back down to the mid, maybe even low 15s. But moving on from there, the 12 hour time frame is currently pivoted at 17,180, which Bitcoin's trading clean about $200 below as of right now. And again, coming in from a pretty intense angle right there alongside relatively low BBWP. So volatility incredibly low right here. Again, you know, probably some more downside pressure over the weekend. 6 hour time frame is obviously already going to be leading into that 12 hour. And we do see that it remains with the downside presence as long as it's below 17,100 on a closing basis. 4 hour time frame, again, same thing, 17,000 bucks, even about, you know, Bitcoin's pretty damn close to there right now ultimately, but again, short-term pressure to the downside, as well as even the hourly. So we have all time frames actually in concert right here, pivoted at 17,060. So what does it essentially mean for price action? Let me actually just go to a plain old chart over here. There we go. That does mean that over the weekend, we're probably going to see another try to the downside. The question is, does Bitcoin actually break? And personally speaking, I do think that we're probably going to get something similar to yesterday, Friday, where you play down to the range lows, probably bounce off the range lows yet again. Again, my opinion is not necessary on this, obviously, but if you do see a break, that's when the analysis, it's not the analysis that changes, that's when the actual structure changes, and that's when we actually look for a trending move, or at least where I look for a trending move. In this case right here, probably looking at something like this, if I had to guess, maybe it comes down a little bit lower, bounces. If you see something like that coming into end of Sunday, especially Monday, this is very likely, I mean, it's not really a bear trap, unless you're on like the super fucking low time frames, obviously, but very likely going to try again higher ultimately, meaning that I'd be looking for Bitcoin to test into the mid, maybe even deep 17s before anything else. Anyways, let me get rid of this for right now. Let's get rid of the LARP lines and go back into it. And then also I should denote that on the 6-hour time frame, we do see potential phantom bearish divergence being constructed right here. That would only be confirmed upon closure, which is not for another 3 hours and 10 minutes from this recording. But if you close basically here or lower, yeah, you probably get another try at least to the downside. But the question is not a try to the downside, it is an actual break to the downside. And to kind of just mark off the range highs here, I'd be kind of right around here really. 4-hour closure above like 17.3. That's at the point where, yes, I do look for Bitcoin to essentially initiate a run, probably close to 18,000 bucks, maybe even a little bit more than that as well. Get a nice little bounce going here. Anyways, now that we've gone through all the lower term timeframes, I wanted to now swing back around and go through the higher timeframes. We're not going to do like a full in-depth breakdown of them right now. I want to save that for tomorrow. But I do believe that the next major move, if you will, probably more around like early January, we're probably going to be seeing something. We're probably going to either see 13,500 or what was the other one? Like 20,500 bucks. All right. So where am I getting that from? Well, I'm getting that from the 2-day chart right here. The 2-day chart has actually gone for a full reset. This is not to be confused with the CME 2-day chart. The CME 2-day chart is completely done now. We've seen that signal solidified. And that's also kind of why I kind of favor a bounce here, regardless of whether you're bullish or bearish, just basically sideways above, let's call it 16 even, and probably extends the bounce. But before we get into that, I did want to go over a few things right here, as we do see that 2-day BBWP representing volatility is incredibly low. Now, I expect it to stay low here for a while, kind of similar to what we saw in October, but that very likely does build up for a big move. And if we look at the stats for this one, coupled with the stochastic oscillator's direction, which has been, pretty damn good in getting the actual moves, about 84.5%, by the way, then we can kind of forecast that once the signal gets going, which it nowhere near right now. Well, it's not this nowhere near, but it still is, probably at least another week or two. Then we can forecast, the amount of time and then the average move. So that would be, close to 3 weeks at 19 days. Again, there's going to be some variance in there, and we're probably looking at a move, maybe 25%. As little as 25%, maybe as much as 44%. So I'll just kind of go on the lower end of that right now, kind of erring on the side of caution, taking that from our current lows, 25%, that's kind of where I'm getting that 20, it's actually more like 20,000 bucks, not 20,500 or so. So that would be an area of interest if we do see that come to the upside. By the way, should denote, that'd still be another fucking lower high, just saying. So that's why I do kind of remain long-term still defensive, if you will. To the downside, that would obviously put Bitcoin, somewhere around, mid to low $13,000 territory. So I do think that we're going to see Bitcoin somewhere at one of those two regions early January, basically. Kind of the same thing as what I was saying in October, where I was saying, hey, in November, like early to middle of November, you're going to see either Bitcoin at 15,000 bucks, or you're going to see it at, I think it was like 23 or 24,000 bucks. We definitely saw it at 15. We definitely saw it at 15. Anyways, okay, cool. So yes, we've gone through that now. Let's go also check out some of the other signals on the higher term timeframes just to see what's up. And the 2-day time frame, which I believe we spoke about maybe yesterday, maybe the day before that, we actually do still have some pretty major drives of bullish divergence come off the 2-day lows right here. It's not just on the 2-day, but it's also on the 5-day. And the weekly is building it here too, which will confirm as soon as tomorrow on Sunday's closure. So if that does happen, or what would that essentially imply? We need to see Bitcoin close above about 17,000 17,200. Then at that point, again, I'm generally looking for Bitcoin to trade up somewhere around $18,000 and probably carry on with another one of these bear market bounces. It should also be known that the weekly BBWP, again, representing volatility, is at extreme lows. So I do look at this as obviously relevant. We're going to be looking at a probably historical move, coming into early 2023, I'd suspect. I think that this one takes a little bit more time to build up, however. But again, very few times in Bitcoin's history have we seen it this low. So that does imply a much greater resolution. And with bullish divergence kind of building over here, as of right now, I'd probably be favoring at least a bear market rally, maybe the highly sought for reversal, like a MAC reversal, but that's still way far away. Other than that, I also wanted to pull up this over here, as we do see that the weekly has closed for CME, and the weekly close for CME with the weekly stochastic still actually positioned to the downside, as it closed at 16,995 and the pivot is 17,455. Same pivot basically for spot price action as well. So if you see that close above tomorrow for Sunday, we're probably going to see an extension of this bounce, just be an easier call. But I'm really interested to see how this reformulates on Monday once we get the new price pivot update. Because if that comes down significantly, like let's say mid to low 16s, very likely we're going to see an extension of this rally before anything else. And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards overall. Other than that, I think that's a good place to be leaving off. I wanted once again to remind myself to talk about BBWP promotion going on. They have 0% on maker fees for both spot and derivative contracts, meaning that you don't pay any fees, which I think is actually like rather nice. With the link in the description below, I believe it's a promotion that's actually only available for this channel, at least to my knowledge, or at least that's what I'm told. Makes me feel special, right? No, I look at that like as a very attractive offer. Obviously, check your funds as well, and then also I think it's like $30,000 deposit bonus with all the fine writing that goes alongside that. And then they're also having their Apex Pro exchange, which is decentralized exchange. I know a lot of people are going to be interested in that simply because a lot of people are interested in no KYC. It's kind of nice that you get to hold your key. It's not that you go hold your keys, but you hold your cryptos in your wallet and you trade directly from your wallet, so you don't have to deal with an FTX-like situation. And there's also a link to that in the description below as well. So I think I'll leave it right there. It's enough shilling for one day, and we'll come back tomorrow to do a little bit more. So with that said, take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.